So, name's Maximus Jamaicanus, and this is the Jamaican Empire. So you've heard about Roll20 from your friends, or you watch Critical Role, or High Rollers, or one of those D&D streams, and you wanted to get onto Roll20, you have no idea how it works. You want to be able to get into a game, set up a character, be able to use a character without waiting on help from a GM or some other player with more experience than you. If that sounds like you, this video is for you. Alright, after you've made your free account, you'll basically be looking at a screen much like this, except your game section is going to be completely empty. As you can see, I have a few games, so I have a bit of experience on this side. So the first thing you want to do is, if you're looking to get into a game, so you have no games and you have no friends to play with on the site, nobody GM that you know who's running a game, you want to go to the Games tab, and you want to go down to Join a Game. As soon as that loads up, you want to immediately go to Advanced Search Options. Now, of course, because we'll be playing, this is mainly for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, we put in 5e and we can hit that, but of course, it doesn't have to be. Roll20 also supports things like 3.5, Pathfinder, I think it even supports Vampire the Masquerade. Oh, no, at least World of Darkness. I don't know Vampire the Masquerade, I don't see, unfortunately. But even AD&D is on here. Either way, so I'm going to assume that we're playing 5th edition, so we put 5th edition in here. When you sort by, that depends on, that just tells whether or not you want the games to be starting soon or not. Matching keywords, this is usually if you are looking for a specific adventure. I mean, if you're just looking for any game, you can leave that blank. You definitely want to check Welcome to New Players. Games with mature content, I'll probably ignore that one. You never know what you're going to find there. And you usually want to go to find games that are free to play if you're not willing to start paying for D&D on your first go around. For gaming groups, the only thing this here is Dungeons & Dragons Adventure League, and I'm not sure whether or not you'd be interested in that. That's entirely up to you. You'll have to look up what Adventure League is. I can only tell you that it is Wizard of the Coast organized play. It's a bit different from a normal group. Alright, so on any of these days, how this works is, of course, you check a day and it will search for games specifically on that day, excluding the other days. For game type, I mean, you could put role-playing game here, but it doesn't really matter. You already put 5e here. It kind of excludes everything else because, of course, none of the other categories would really cover 5e. Audio and visual, I don't know about anybody else, but I'm not using my camera for strangers, so I set this to voice only. Language, English. Make sure you set this. Funny thing about this is, only a couple of years ago, because I've been on the site for a couple of years, maybe only 2 years ago, there were not this many language options, so I'm actually rather surprised. And I was very surprised when relatively recently I set this to any and got quite a few foreign language games. I definitely did not expect that. So set this to English, of course, if that's your primary language. And of course, depending on whether or not, how often you want the game to be played, you can check any of these. Now, and as it says here, you just type in a time, and the game will be, the game that will be displayed will be plus or minus 3 hours of that time. So as the example says, we put in 8 p.m. and click Find Games. Alright, and as that comes up, we'll see that there are quite a few games. You even have a Dungeons & Dragons 5e sci-fi game here. And then you could have a whole lot of games. Of course, these are all games that are set to plus or minus 3 hours of 8 p.m. my time, and you'll be able to go into any of these. And as you do, it will not be a thing where, unfortunately, you can't just click on a game and get in. That's not how that works. To give you an idea what you'll see, you can click on Horde Dragon Queen, and as you go down, they will usually have something like this. There's applying for a game on Roll20 is almost like applying for a job. You will see that there's an application that you have to fill out, and you have usually quite a few people per game that have applied. Just like you see here, quite a few people trying to get into this game. And yeah, my advice to you, if you're searching for a game to get into, is just apply for as many as possible and just hope for the best. Alright, so, but that's not really what we're here for. The real meat of the matter is we are going to assume that you already got into a game and you're trying to just create a character. So, first thing you want to do is, as you have the game here in your game section, click launch game. Yep, as you come into the game, you'll see a loading screen. As you notice, mine goes by pretty fast, but if you're a new player, you'll probably see it goes by a lot more slowly because there'll be a loading screen, etc, etc. But that's neither here nor there. Alright, the first thing you want to do is change some of your settings as soon as you get into the game. So, looking at these tabs over here, you're going to go with the settings, and then, which is the one on the far right, and then you're going to want to change, first thing you're going to change is your avatar. Now, as you can see, I'm the only person in this game, so the avatar is not really a problem, but when you have 4 or 5 people in the game, the avatars can stretch across the screen like this, and it will block a good fifth of the screen, which is very annoying. So you can remove them, and really you don't need to see people need to see your Roll20 avatar in game. That's not useful in any way. So you want to go down to chat avatars and change it to name only, so you can only see this, and of course which will display your name on Roll20. Now you're going to want to change this later on, and I will show you how to, and it will be quite useful to the GM and the other players when it comes to remembering character names, but we'll change that later. Next thing that you really want to change is all the way down to the bottom. Basically, there's going to be the audio input and the audio settings. Just in general, you want to turn this off most of the time. Almost all games on Roll20 use some external voice over IP program such as Skype and Discord. So what you want to do is to turn video and voice. You want to broadcast to others, video and voice, change it to nothing. I want to receive from others, video and voice, to nothing. Once that's changed, you won't have any of the echoing problems that sometimes people have when they just get into games. While we're here, I would like to explain the tabs. The tabs here, as you can see, the two chat bubbles is the chat tab. This is where you will see everything that everyone says in game in terms of text when they write, but also all the results of rolls and such. Very important, probably the most important tab to have on at all times. The next one is your journal. This is where you find your character sheet. As you'll see, I do have one here already, and I will explain what that is in a second. Next is your compendium. This is one where you're going to draw stuff from, which is very useful. You'll see how that works in a second as well. Jukebox, this just shows you what the GM is playing as far as music is concerned. And when music is playing, it's very important, because sometimes people in games will say to the GM, if we turn down the music or something like that. You have the ability to change the music levels you're hearing individually. So when the GM is playing a track of some kind, it will come up here, and you will have your own personal audio level that you can change. So the GM doesn't have to change the audio levels for everyone if it's affecting you. That's very important to remember. Over here you get collections, which is definitely something you don't really need to care about as a first-time player. And of course, settings is the last one. Now, the next tab we're going to, probably the second most important to chat, is a journal. At the journal, you're going to see this little blue figure of a human and some random string of letters, basically. As you see, they say something like Ozralot Egik. It doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything at all. That is just a random string of letters that is created whenever a new character sheet is created by a GM. So, how do you open the character sheet? You just click it, and it automatically opens to the bio and info page, which is where your backstory would be if you have put one in. So if you don't want other people to see it, or, well, that only applies if the GM makes it visible to other people, which a lot of the time GMs don't. It's your character sheet in its entirety is visible only to you. So you are gonna just want to switch over to character sheet, however. And when this happens, you're gonna see this box appear. This box is going to basically, gives you three options. The center one, of course, you're not interested in at all. It says to create an NPC, that's for your GMs. But you have the left and the right, which is use the character mancer or edit sheet directly. So what I'm going to do is, first thing I'm going to do is going to use the character mancer. The character mancer is not a bad system. If you ask me, it's a bit limited, but I will show you how to create a character using the Charactermancer. This is the better way to create a character, if you ask me, if you're new to Dungeons and Dragons and new to Roll20. And the other way is to edit sheet directly. As soon as I start using the Charactermancer, you will see some of the limitations of it, unless they've updated it, and I'll probably make me a liar, but we'll see. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a character using the Charactermancer first. Alright, and they have this welcome to character, etc. You can even opt out at this point, and it will go through all of the different steps here. Next. Yes, this one is choose a race from the available races, as this is what I was referring to when I was talking about how limited it is. This, as you can see, are the races available in the SRD. If you don't know what the SRD is, it is the System Reference Document, and it's basically a mini rule book that is available for free. And I say mini because it is basically a subsection of the player's handbook, so it has some of the things available in the player's handbook, but not most of it. These are the stuff that Watts has given us for free, which is nice if you ask me. So you can only pick things from the SRD when using the Charactermancer by default. I do believe this changes if you buy the player's handbook on Roll20 as a digital thing. I'm not sure, don't quote me on that. But either way, we'll pick a race that is available for us in the SRD, and we pick Dwarf. As everyone knows, Dwarves are the best race. So you get your ability score increase of +2, which is great. And then you can choose an alignment immediately. For new players, I definitely say just ignore your alignment. Your alignment should be something that describes your character, not something that you pick from beforehand and try to play towards. That's not important. And then as you go down, you see tool proficiencies. As a dwarf, you get a chance to pick one of these. I think this is a very thematic thing for dwarves. I usually pick smith tools rather than brewer's tools. I think I've picked brewer's tools on maybe one character, but usually smith tools when I play a dwarf. That's always helpful, and this shows you all of the different things that come with your race. And another thing you need to choose, of course, is your sub race. Are you a mountain dwarf or a healer? Oh, mountain dwarf is not even available. Back to the fact that it's limited by the SRD, so we'll pick hill dwarf, and then that also shows us that increases our wisdom by 1, and we get dwarven toughness because we're a hill dwarf. And of course, it does show you some of the things that come over here as well. But nothing else there is really important, so we go to next. Alright, so back up, we got to the classes that are available. Let's see what can we pick from. Okay, Paladin is available from SRD. I kind of wanted to use this with a Paladin because it was probably the best class for this example. Alright, so we'll go to Dwarven Paladin. We'll get skill proficiencies. Yeah, these are basically the skills that are available to Paladins as a choice. Of course, as a Paladin, you usually want to be up in the front. Your character is going to have high strength because, that's a Paladin ability, so you want to take athletics. We're going to take athletics. And if we'll take... we did get the wisdom bonus, so maybe we'll have a very wise character that knows how to read people with great age. We'll take insight as a second skill. And it also tells you about your first level ability, lay on hands, of course, on divine sense as well. It also tells you exactly what equipment you get, which is all very good. This will all be available on your character sheet, I believe, when we are finished, to show you everything. And of course, this is all change depending on what class you are picked at the beginning rather than Paladin. And then you can just go next. So next is the ability score method. Now, if it even suggested your abilities. Yes, you want, as a Paladin, you want to have high strength and high charisma. Those are your most important things, of course. And this because, of course, with charisma you cast spells, and with strength you basically slap things in the head. Alright, and then the only thing available here is custom. So alright, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to just use a method called 27 point buy to create this Paladin here. Now you can of course ask your DM what method you are to use and fill in. Once you've done that you can fill in all of your all of your stats after you've done whatever method your DM uses. 27 point buy is my favorite method, so we of course jack up the strength. And if you want to, well, be a good explanation time to explain how 27 point buy works. It's pretty simple. You have 27 points available, and you can just put points in your ability until 27, this number 27 here, goes down to 0. You can technically do more than 27 with the point buy system, but 27 is the default. Almost everyone uses 27. I think I've only, in my time on Roll20, ever heard one group that used 30, which made slightly stronger characters, but almost always is 27. So I'm going to have, for a paladin, I'm going to have that high strength. I'm not gonna mess with my dexterity just yet. As a hill dwarf, or as a dwarf really, I have pretty good constitution, so I'm going to set this up to 12, so it kind of saves me some points on constitution, because of course as a martial class, as a warrior class, I'm going to want to have usually a 14 in constitution. 12 is technically doable, but I'd usually want a 14 for intelligence and wisdom. I'm not really sure. I'll check on. I'll do intelligence later. Wisdom, I did say I didn't want him to be a bit wiser, and we did take insight as a skill. And if you don't know, insight is modified by wisdom. So I will set this up to a 13. Again, I save 1 point because I'm a hill dwarf. I get a +1 as a racial bonus. And of course, as a paladin, I want fairly high charisma. Now, the next thing you want to do is whether or not, what do you do with your dexterity or intelligence? We have 2 points left. You can put them in either intelligence or dexterity. Now, as a dwarf, as a paladin rather, we don't really need intelligence, but I sort of need dexterity. Everyone sort of needs dexterity, so I'll set that to 10 and leave the intelligence as 8. He would not be a very another very book-learned dwarf, but very wise. He's had a lot of experience just in life in general, and this will be my final scores here, not these scores here to the left, but these one in red squares. So we will take strength of 15, dexterity of 10, it was constitution of 14, intelligence of 8, no, not 9, 8, wisdom I believe was 14, and then 14 as well. All right, so we have their ability scores, and then next, then choosing on background. Now, background for a character is kind of an important choice. It's basically asking the question, what did your character do before they started becoming an adventurer? Now, a character, especially an older character, can had done multiple things before they became an adventurer, but the background is important to pick. Is what is the formative aspect of your character's history, which is the thing that most impacts them being an adventurer as they are now. That's the most important thing. So you can choose anything, or unfortunately, they only have Acolyte, so we'll pick Acolyte, which is kind of what I wanted to pick for this character anyway. That's fortunate. All right. So I got insight here. I wonder if it will allow me to choose a different skill, because this is something that this is important. If you get a skill from your background that you already picked as a class skill, you just pick a different skill from your class. You don't lose a skill or anything like that. You do get proficiency in 2 languages. I already have Common and Dwarvish as a dwarf. I think it would be interesting for this dwarf to speak Infernal, know thy enemy kind of thing, and also to speak Celestial. Nice little dichotomy a bit there, and the personality traits. Now, these are things you can definitely put in later. I wouldn't say, especially if you're new to Dungeons & Dragons, you should not try to put these in just yet. You can look at the tables, of course. If you see anything that speaks to you, you can put them in, but don't try to rush to put them in. You can leave these blank even for a couple of sessions as you figure out what your character is like. So the next thing you can get is your battle axe, and you can of course pick yourself. It says shield or any martial weapon, but it doesn't actually allow you to pick a shield here. Of course, you can pick a shield as well as a martial weapon. It's not an Andor. They should have shield here as an option as well, because you get to pick a weapon and a shield basically. So, and of course you can take fire javelins or any simple weapons. I usually take hand axes. Next thing, you take a priest pack or an explorer pack. Now explorer pack is objectively the better pack to take. It means you'll have to spend less gold later on, but for flavor, I think for this character take a priest pack because he is an acolyte after all, so he only has his priestly things on him. And then prayer book or prayer wheel. I'll take a prayer book instead of a wheel, and that basically just speaks about all the equipment that you have. And with that, you're done. Next level. Alright, at this level, first level that is, I'm not sure why this has 8 intelligence. Well, let's get back to this. Or sorry, not, okay. 8 intelligence, I don't know how that's it. I must have set that to 5 on accident. Alright, so, and these are your ability scores. You don't have any spells, not at this level. Paladins don't gain spells until second levels, technically. Feats, you don't get any feats available to you unless you are at first level, unless you are human. Only humans get feats, and on that we should ask, what is a feat? As you can see a nice description here, a feat represents an accomplishment, great determination, expertise. They're basically special abilities that your character gets. By default, you can only get them every 4 levels, basically 4th level, 8th level, 12th level. The only exception to that are humans. Humans get one at 1st level as well as at 4th level, etc. So we don't have any feats yet, so skip that. And bio. This is usually where you talk about the flavor of your character, as it's, see here you see the Ozralot Egik, which is the string name. We call it Tredegar Shatterstone is the name of this guy. We'll give him, we'll make him an older dwarf, as I said before, so we'll make him 201. Height, dwarves are usually about 4'6" to 5 feet if I'm not mistaken, so we'll make this guy taller side at 4'10". Weight, make him a bit on the heavier side, 160 pounds I believe. Be about heavy for a dwarf. Dark eyes, yeah, dark brown, dark eyes as I said before, dark brown here. Skin, and he has a bit of a tan, I think. Spends a lot of time walking around in the bright sunlight, so he's a bit darker than your standard dwarf. And then you can skip. And this, of course, is a review of everything you've done. Yeah, now of course it says I haven't chosen an alignment. As I said, you really shouldn't. Yes, there's something here that tells you that you already have this skill from your background. That's nice. That's good that it warns you of this. So you can go back and then choose a different skill, as I said before. So we already have that. I mean, he's a medicine man of sorts, maybe. So yeah, we'll take medicine. Why not? As you go, and you can flip back to review quickly, and that's gone. The background, we haven't chosen any of this, which is intentional, and all of these things are as they're supposed to be, and then so we just apply changes, and now it's building our character for us. And then boom, with that we have a first level paladin all done, more or less. I don't think it applied how much gold we have, but it also gave us all our proficiencies nice and neat. It also gave us all of the items we have, which is excellent. It's almost better, I think, to use the character mancer, even if you are very versed in how to make a character, just to make this part specifically, the adding of items much quicker. All right, so, and with that, you would have been finished your first level character. Now we've done a character with the character mancer. Now we're going to do a character without the character mancer. Same as usual, we'll click on this here, or random string. I won't even try to pronounce this one. And then we get over to the character sheet. This time, however, we change it to edit the sheet directly. So what we're going to do now, instead of creating Tredegar Shatterstone, we're going to create his brother, Bredegar. For whatever reason, Tredegar and Bredegar are very, very similar, so much that the stats are going to be the same. So it's 15 strength, dexterity of 10, con of 14, intelligence of 8, and a wisdom and charisma of 4. Alright, so once you can just put those stats in directly just like that. You can then choose your class, go down to Paladin. We're gonna say they're twins, and they do exactly the same thing basically. No subclass, of course, not as yet. Race is going to be dwarf. We'll keep the heal, of course, just keep the stats the same. And then we go down to the same skills as before. So we take athletics, insight, religion, and I believe it was medicine. So with that, Bredegar has all the same skills, and you can just put them in just like that. Our dwarves are quite short. We have a speed of 25 as opposed to 30. And then you'd have to do your hit points automatically. I would assume that if you're doing it this way, you know how to calculate your hit points automatically, which for a paladin is a d10 plus the constitution modifier at first level, so 12 hit points. Make sure you put in your hit point maximum, then your current hit points. Lots of people forget the hit point maximum. It's important to do both for tokens, which of course is something that you are not really going to concern yourself with, but it's important to have in there for the GM. And then you'll have all of these same things here, your personality traits, ideals, bonds and flaws if you want to put those in. And then the next thing we're going to go down is, of course, your tool proficiencies. Of course, as you going through the PHB, you would have known how to put all of these in basically, or you'd have known what to put in. If you have tools, you want to put in the tools here. For example, the smith tools, like that. Proficiency bonus, you are proficient, of course. And attribute, this is entirely up to the GM. The GM needs to decide what goes to smith tools. For me, it could be dexterity, or it could even be intelligence. It all depends on how what the GM rules. I think dexterity is a bit better, so I set that to dexterity for now and just put that like that. And you can go through that way and put in all the tools that you are proficient in. When it comes to other proficiencies and language, each one you can just put in it as a language. So you take proficiency there, and then you put, Dwarvish. A lot of people just put this all in one line, rather than how, if you remember the character man, it was all of the languages were in one were all in separate. There were separate buttons, so you got this very long list. I don't think that's sensible. You could put Dwarvish, Common, Infernal, and Celestial all in one. That's great, especially since that if you do that and someone asks what languages you speak, you can just click this, come over to the chat tab. Oh, I made some rolls I didn't even notice, and it will tell you all of the languages you have immediately in one go. So this is actually better than how the character mancer produces it, in my opinion. So so you go back up here, and the things that you will probably want to get done next are things like your armor. Oh, hit dice. Make sure you have the total, and of course how many you have currently, which is 1. Next thing is your armor, and probably your weapon. So to do that, what you can do, you can change your armor class here manually, but because this is the internet and we have the powers of the internet to do things automatically, we can go over to the compendium, which is the eye, take scale mail and pull it onto the character sheet, and boom, it puts in the scale mail, puts in a weight for us, which is very useful, and automatically updates our character sheet. Now if you notice that Bredegar has armor class a little bit lower than Tredegar, that's because he's not wearing a shield. So not an animated shield, a actual shield, normal shield. Can pull that across as well. Shield weight gets updated, and boom, armor class becomes the same as Tredegar. After that, the next thing you want to do is weapons, of course, and that would be how to do that is the same thing. We go search for battle axe, just battle the works, fine. Pull over the battle axe and see if it updates. Oh no, that's proficiency, sorry. That's an item there, bam. And it automatically adds a battle axe. Now the really interesting thing here is that it updates it to show you the battle axe one-handed, if you see it here, as well as the battle axe two-handed. So it makes two buttons for you, which you can just click to automatically swing weapon one-handed. In which case, as you can see, ignore all the mumbo jumbo. The most important thing you see is that 6 in the, or you rather not that 6. Is it that 6? Oh no, it's a damage. Right. This is kind of an important part for me to explain how to do the damage on these things. That's from before. So the next thing you want to do is how to do damage on this character sheet. It's quite kind of important. How to do that is as you click this, you'll see it rolls to hit. Now you'll see here it automatically rolls twice. This is something that is kind of a Roll20 exclusive kind of thing. Of course, when you're on tabletop, you only roll 1d20, but Roll20, for the sake of convenience, rolls 2d20 all the time. And the automatic idea is that if you do not have advantage, you just take the left one, ignore whatever is on the right, and when you do have advantage, you automatically have 2 rolls. Either way, the one-handed battle axe roll damage, and you get that. Here you go. You get 5 slashing damage. And then when you check this, you will notice that it rolled a d8. And for two-handed, same thing. Click there. Rolled a d10. You see, rolling 1d10. That's very important. That it separates them, even without you without you needing to do anything. All right, and basically that's all you really have to do in terms of just basic armor and weapons, if you have those. And of course you can go through the compendium, and you have to basically search all the items, things like backpack, rope. Well, not ropers, we wouldn't want a roper, that would be terrible. Hempen rope, etc, etc. You can go through and put everything in your whatever pack that you take, the adventurers pack, the acolytes pack, irrelevant of that. All of the stuff that you put them in there one at a time. That's the only one place the character mancer has an advantage. And then the next thing, of course, you can do is over here where you have the class resources, you could put things like your lay on hands, which allows you to just put in 5 that you have at first level. And so you can, whenever you use any, you can click the arrow or change the number yourself manually, and boom, you have somewhere to track your lay on hands. And of course that works for any other class abilities, sorcery points if you're a sorcerer, key points if you're a monk. Same thing applies to all of those things. The next thing that you need to do, the last thing we need to do rather, is our spells. How to do spells on Roll20. Now, first thing we want to do actually is, because of course we are using a paladin, which is a spellcasting class, but that doesn't have spells at first level though. To make things a little bit easier, we'll just set Bredigar to second level. Bredigar is a little faster than Tredigar. He got to second level first. And at which point you switch over to the spells section. Now, it was important for me to do that because now I have spell casting, and this won't this automatically tells me that at second level I have 2 spell slots, which of course is normal for a paladin. Of course we can set this to 2 because once we hit second level we will not have cast any spells. So boom, we have a second level spell already in. The next thing, so we have all of our spell slots rather. The next thing we want to do is how to find spells and put them in automatically. Now, this is very useful. It's even more useful than any of the other things I talked about, because it means you can get in the spell information just immediately into the character sheet. And how do you do that? Same way as everything else. So, first spell we'll look up is Bless, for example. You can look up Bless, you can pull it directly into the character sheet. And bam, we have Bless. And if you want to prepare a spell, if you're a prepared spellcaster like a paladin for example, you just click this red button I'll remind you that the spells are prepared. It doesn't do anything mechanically on the character sheet. It's not a case of if it's not prepared, you can't cast it on the sheet or anything like that. She doesn't do that. It's just a visual reminder for you. And if you want to know what casting a spell looks like, click the spell, and this will will ask you what level you want to cast the spell at before you can cast it. Submit it. Go over here, and it will show you all the spell information. Now, this is great for spells like Bless, where all you need to know. All you need to do is see what the spell does. However, this does not work for spells that do damage. So, like for example, if we're going to go over to, let's see if they have smite spells. They have branding smite. Okay, that's one. Branding smite. If you pull over branding smite, all right, we're second level. That's not level we can cast at the moment, but that's irrelevant. We can notice that the spell went into the spell level that it's supposed to go. It is a second level spell and it goes there automatically, irrelevant of where on the character sheet I put it. So if I click that, it tries to cast at second level, and look, it automatically does damage. Now, Branding Smite also has a secondary effect. How do you show that? How do you make it come up like Bless? What do you do now? You can open the spell with that gear icon there, and you can come down here and show the, here you come here to this part that says output. Now attack will show you, will do roll damage as I've shown here, but spell card will show something different. So I'll close it, cast it again, and you will see this. So that's what you need to do if you need to if you want to show the if the spell has secondary abilities. You want to swap from the spell card to show what the abilities are, and the other one to show what damage it does, or for it to roll damage rather. You then, there is a way, I do believe there is a way to attempt to try to have it do both things at the same time, but it doesn't work very well, if I'm not mistaken, because there is it says include spell description and attack. However, I'm going to turn this on, but I remember the last time I tried this, it didn't work very well. So let's see if they fixed it. Oh, no, there you go. Actually, this does work. Excellent. So that even works, perfectly fine by the look of it now. So there you go, Roll20, always updating. So it works now. So even when it's an attack spell and it's a secondary effect, you can go down to include description in attack, so that the spell's description will always be there, and of course they're automatically there. Now, as you can tell, there are other spells that are not available that are not available on Roll20 in the SRD. So how do you do those? You open up, you press that plus there. I'm just gonna put in I'm going to assume you have your player's handbook open when you're doing this, and I'm just going to put in, for example, Wrathful Smite. You'll have all of the information, what school it's from. I don't remember what school this is. I want to say with evocation, casting time. You can just type all of these things in, whether or not it has a VSM, which of those. It is a concentration spell, I believe. And you go down spellcasting abilities. You can change it just to spell, which will automatically update for your class. And then you can change the output to spell card or to attack. Damage type, it's radiant damage. I know that much, I believe, and it does, I believe, 2d6 damage. And it also has a description of causing the enemy to be afraid. Failed wisdom save. But of course, like I said, you'll have your player's handbook doing this better than I'm doing this. Either way, put all of that in, do that manually, close it, click, and Wrathful Smite. Oh, well, I forgot to change this to on. And then Wrathful Smite. There you go. So, you there now have any spell that you cannot find in the compendium, which will be quite a few, you can put in manually, like so. One of the funny things about putting in spells manually, of course, is that you can put in a bit less text. You can take out any of the extra things and just summarize it to a much shorter, condensed version, so it'll actually be a little bit quicker to read. So that's actually a bonus. But other than that, yeah, it's all well and good with that. And with that, I think we're finished. more or less. There is not really much else you can put in except for here. Actually, I did forget one thing: features and traits. Now, features and traits are in this box is where you'd put all of the things that are like your racial abilities. For example, there's your racial dwarven toughness, and that's, you know, +1 HP per level, for example. And then you can close this and you have that visible there. So two little tips with this section especially: you can click this to remove all the text. And this is of course important when you have racial abilities or any other abilities that are very long, very wordy, especially if you're going to be copy and pasting it from somewhere. Yeah, I know about you people. So you are going to be when it becomes very wordy, you just click that, close it up, and it's fine. And if someone asks, well, what does that ability do? The speech bubble here displays it to the chat. Yep. So, and with that, I think I have covered everything. Of course, there's temporary hit points if you need to put that in, unnecessarily. And if you have inspiration, there's a little dragon here that you can click that will show you if you have inspiration once you use it up. Click to remove it, and that's pretty much it. With that, I think you should have all the information you need to create any character that you could want. If you guys have any more questions, you can just leave them in the comment section, of course. And yeah, just remember to like the video if you liked it. If you didn't like the video, subscribe. You'll probably like the next one. Either way, this has been Noximus Jamaicatus. Later.